When it comes to high-ticket sales for women, what is the art of asking for the sale? What is the art of asking for the sale when you're serving deeper with $1 million coaching offer? When you're serving deeper with a 10K coaching offer? When you're serving deeper with a 100K coaching offer? When you're serving deeper with a 500K coaching offer? When you're serving deeper with a 250K offer or 50K offer? What is the art of asking for the sale? As a woman in high-ticket sales, how do you support premium coaching clients so that you never have to make them buy? You never have to convince them. You never have to persuade them. And you never have to ever overcome an objection. Hello, beautiful, and welcome to High-Ticket Sales in the Prosperous Womb. So one of the things that I learned really early on in 2001 when I started my legal career was this. There were two things. One is that you don't leave life at the door when you come into a litigation, a trial, or a negotiation. You don't leave life at the door when you come into a high-ticket sales conversation. You don't leave life at the door when you're pricing and packaging, when you're positioning, when you're messaging, when you're marketing, and when you're selling. That's the first thing. Life always comes with you. Always comes with you. Especially in your coaching business when you're pricing and packaging and when you're messaging. The second thing I learned is that there are moments in life, in everyday life, that look so mundane, but they matter. And those moments become key moments in your business that support connection, relationship, and sales. And I'm going to dive into that when I get into the art of asking in high-ticket sales. You know, we live in a world where high-ticket sales is now a dying art, because we don't have time. We don't want to make time to connect with people. We don't want to make time to have conversations. And now, thanks to AI, we don't even have time to do anything. Now we're becoming bots so that our robot selves sell for us. When it comes to selling and serving deeper with premium coaching offers, you cannot microwave a sales conversation. You cannot Amazon Prime a high-ticket sales relationship. When you sell $1 million offer, you do not Amazon Prime or microwave your relationships. So how can you, as this coach, this high-value coach, who is supporting your clients at the deepest level, to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel understood, to feel like you're in their head, like you get them, you know them, and you're here for them. And not only that, that your investment says, I can hold space for you at the highest level, that no matter how big you want to go, the space is spacious enough to hold you. I am not limiting myself to a 10K container. I am not stuffing $1 million coaching up into a 100K container because I cannot hold space for your bigness. How do you do that? This is all the art of asking. It starts when you midwife the gifts, the offer. It starts with your pricing, your positioning, your packaging, your messaging. When women come to the Prosperous Womb, especially in God Made Women Millionaires or asking for the sale VIP day, one question I invite them to consider is, what question is your price point asking your potential client? You say you want to invite a 100K client into your coaching offer. You want to invite $1 million coaching client. Is your price point speaking to the $1 million client, or is it speaking to the 100K client, so that you try to sell this 100K client, this $1 million offer to the 100K client because you're afraid to speak to the $1 million client? What asking are you doing in your pricing? Because then you're going to overcome objections because this 10K client or this 100K client does not want the $1 million offer. Who is your messaging asking questions of? What questions are they asking? And here's the thing. Asking better questions is a big tenet of high-ticket sales, okay? It's a big component of high-ticket sales. We need to ask better questions, yes. We can't ask questions that support people to answer questions at the 10-foot level. We need to be at the 200-foot level and act like you're a prosecutor or a defense attorney and ask the questions so that you can deep dive into people's hearts. Connect with them at that level, not the superficial how level, so you can nod your head and go, yeah, so they can bottom line it for you, and you can microwave the conversation and get to the sale, so you can say, I don't have sales conversations anymore. Anyway, let's get back to the art of asking. One of the things that happens is that better questions creates conversation. It creates a conversation that leads to a connection, and that connection creates a beautiful relationship that becomes a high-ticket sale, period. Better questions do that. Better questions don't start with a high-ticket sales script. They begin in your offer. What question, and I'll drop that in the comments, what question is your premium coaching offer asking of your client? What messages is that offer sending to your client? What message is your price point sending to the client that you want to work with? Not the one you've worked with, not the one you've outgrown, not the one you wish would not ask you, if your offer is still open. The one you really want to work with. What questions, what better questions are you asking her? So she rises up and becomes the woman who self-leads herself into that offer. Are the questions talking down to that client? There's an art of asking for the sale. Are your questions cutting the conversation short? Let me get into this, because this is where I see women in their messaging, their pricing, their positioning just stop the conversation. And it happens also in sales calls, especially high-ticket sales calls. As a defense attorney, I wanted my clients to sit in the pause. When I became a prosecutor for those 7 years, all I needed was for you to say yes and no. Nothing else. Zip it, yes, no. But as the prosecutor, I wanted to draw it out. So as the defense attorney, I wanted to draw it out so that the jury comes into the experience with you. So they feel those 5 minutes with you and they say, oh my gosh, wow. So they feel like they're on the journey with you, in the experience with you, okay? Sitting in the pause with you. So that when you breathe, when you exhale, you can feel it. You can feel your heart. That's when the tears might even fall, because you have the space to be yourself, the space to grow, the space to be safe, the space to say the thing that you've never said before. When your clients see your messaging, when they see your pricing, do they say yes, no, or do they experience all of the things that come with the desire they have for that most valuable thing that they want, the desire they have for that most important thing in their life or their relationship or their business, whatever it is that they're trying to co-create with you? Does it allow them to feel deeply and resonate deeply with what you're saying, because you're speaking only directly to them? Even in a masterclass of 10,000 people, as they watch you on that video, they feel, oh my gosh, in a room of 4,000 people, she's speaking only to me. How does she know? It's the art of asking. And let's get directly into that right now. Better conversations start with asking better questions. But there's something that's even more important than asking better questions, and that is active listening. Active listening does not cut the conversation short. So as a prosecutor, when I ask my questions, yes or no answers, let's say I ask, how are you? Fine. Did you do it? Yes. There's no room for conversations. I don't know their heart, and I don't want the jury to know their heart. But when I ask questions as a defense attorney from my client, that's going to draw out her heart, that's going to share her story, that's going to support me to know her at the deepest level. And as a coach, in my messaging, when I create a question, when I embed a question in there, something that I know is going to trigger that desire, that's going to support the Ruth in her, the Caleb in her, the Joshua in her, to say, I can take the land. I can go take the land. That supports the Gideon in her to say, I am strong enough. I am a great and mighty man or woman. When I can actively put that question in there that supports and listen for how she responds, then I know whether she's the best fit client for me. And she thinks to herself, how does she even know? Like, she's never met me. I'm one in a room of 1,000 people. How does she know? Because my listening started with my offer and my pricing and the gifts that God has given to me. So when you download the gifts that God has given to you and put those in the offer and actually make that the work that you do in the world your assignment, everything you download, every message, every pricing, every conversation you download is tied to those specific gifts, because those gifts are for a very specific person, and no one else has those gifts but you. And those are the gifts that allow you to create questions that support your clients to sit in the pause. Okay? So it's active listening and supporting the client to sit in the pause. What does that mean? Again, when I was an attorney, My whole sales life is based on the mistakes I made in my legal practice for the last 25 years. Okay. So over the last 25 years as an attorney, one of my shortcomings, my biggest mistakes was my listening. I did not make the time to listen to people, whether it was the paralegal, my assistant, the partners I worked with. If they came into my office, the one thing I always said was, bottom line it for me. I don't have time for this conversation. Can you BL it? Just bottom line it for me. And then they'll bottom line in less than 2 minutes. If you cannot tell me or explain to me, whether it was my client or whoever, in 2 minutes or less, I did not need to hear it. Now, when it came to coaching, it was the direct opposite of that. I could not actively listen. So I had to get rid of the bottom line situation, which is what is in the mainstream coaching industry. We want clients to bottom line everything so we don't have a deep connection with them, so we can just create credit card numbers in our group coaching programs. We collect 1,000 credit card numbers and we make 7 figures in 7 minutes. No. We throw away the bottom line. We stop microwaving. We stop Amazon priming, and we start to listen with our hearts. Not for the things they're saying. The art of asking has nothing to do with what our clients tell us, okay? Which is why we have conversations with premium clients. Which is why we have conversations before we sell $1 million coaching offer or $100K coaching offer or $250K coaching offer. Because if not, the client is going to come to you and say, I have a car, but I want to go faster. So I want a faster car. And you're going to give them a faster car because that's what they asked for. Because if you had the conversation and allow them to sit in the pause, they'll realize, I don't want a car. I don't want a faster car. I want an airplane. Because a lot of times, our high-ticket sales conversations are selling faster horses and faster cars. Because we're not listening. We're selling the DMs. We're selling in some other way that does not involve a conversation or connection. And we need to create questions, better questions that create conversations, that lead to a connection, that builds a beautiful relationship, that becomes the high-ticket sale. Because the relationship is the beginning. It's just the beginning. The sales conversation is only the beginning of the relationship. There are 2 levels of relationship. Your offer is the first step, the midwife and the gifts. And the second step is a sales conversation, which is the portal, the vessel, the thing that your client goes through to get what she wants. So we actively listen, be more valuable, and then we keep asking in your messaging. Look at your messaging. Where in your messaging, where in your positioning, where in your pricing and packaging does the client see herself? Where in your messaging, position, and packaging are you talking about you? A conversation, the art of asking is a conversation that supports the client to feel like she's the only one in the room, that everybody's eyes are on her, and for the first time she feels safe enough to say the thing. A lot of the sales conversations and the messaging that I see, the pricing that I see when it comes to the art of asking is, how are you? Fine. That's what it looks like. Or a yes or no question. I want to read your messaging, and when you read the messaging, does it allow the client to feel like she can express herself fully, confidently, and say the thing for the first time that she's scared to tell even her therapist, but she can say to you? Because when she saw that, she felt like you took all the clothes off of her and she's naked, and she feels like the woman that God sees. Whether you're a health coach, a life coach, a relationship coach, a business coach, it does not matter what niche you're in. The art of asking in high-ticket sales is a trusted relationship and connection that supports the high-ticket coaching client to trust herself, to say yes to herself first before she says yes to the offer and the outcome. It's one of the things I invite kids. I've been a Sunday school teacher for the last 13 years, I guess. And, we always tell our kids to share their toys. But how can someone share something that they don't even recognize they own? How can you share something that you don't recognize you own? So you have your toy and your best friend comes over and you immediately have to share with them, but you never even had time to own it. That's what happens in sales conversations. Our clients come in and they're convinced, made to, forced to, or overcome objections to, so they can say yes to something that they don't hold themselves accountable to co-creating. If your client is not holding herself accountable and 100% responsible and accountable for the outcomes in that $1 million coaching offer or that $250,000 coaching offer, go back to the art of asking. Where did you skip the active listening? Where did you skip putting the spotlight on her? Where were you talking about you and how many sales you've done in 30 years and how many millions you've made in 7 minutes? Your premium coaching clients don't care about how much money you've made. That is not part of the asking for the sales conversation. That is not part of the art of asking. The amount of millions you've made is the least interesting thing about you. It's the least interesting thing about you in a high-ticket sales conversation. The most interesting thing about you is that your client could not get a chance to ask you questions about yourself because she was talking about herself. Because for the first time, you were asking questions and each answer she gave you led to a deeper question. Each answer she gave you led to a deeper question, which is why we throw out the scripts. Because you asked her how she was doing and she told you how she was doing, the last thing she did. And you asked her what happened during the last thing she did and she told you what happened and who she met and what she did and what she ate and how it affected her family. And then you asked her how it affected her daughter and what her daughter said to her, what her son said to her. And then it led to a different conversation that allowed you to see that the thing that she said she wanted is not what she really wants. All she wants is a deeper connection with her husband and her children. She really does not care about losing 100 pounds, and she does not need to lose the 100 pounds to have that deeper connection with her husband and her children. But it took active listening and building a connection in your messaging for you to recognize that. The art of asking supports your client to see the thing that she truly wants and realize, oh, no. I did not want to lose 50 pounds. That's not why I came to this health coach. I came because I want my husband to look at me the way he did on our wedding night. I want him to look at me that way. That's what all of this is about. It's not the weight. And for the first time reading this message, I realized he can look at me that way. And if I want to lose the weight, I lose it for myself, not for him, not for my children, but for the life that God gave to me. That's what the art of asking does in a high-ticket sales conversation. And when that happens, that's when they raise their hand and say, how do I work with you? Because for the first time in a sea of 1 million coaches, I see the offer. I recognize myself in what you're saying. And for the first time, someone sees me. That is the art of asking. Come back for part 2. Let me know how this lands for you.